Welcome to the Way to Go podcast. I'm Bill McMinn, and here with me is Mark Hostetler, both pastors at Eagleville Bible Church. And we're glad that you tuned in. And in fact, you could help us a little bit with these shows. Just share them. You know, if it hits you, if you think it's helpful, let others know about it, because we want to impact as many people as we can. Absolutely. Now, one thing, Mark, I just decided, because you can do shows on anything. We do podcasts on any topic you feel like doing, really. And so there's a book called The 7 Deadly Sins, The 7 Cardinal Virtues, written in 1901, and then The 7 basically Cardinal Virtues, written in 1902 by Dr. James Stalker. So I do laugh about that name. I just think it's kind of funny that his last name was Stalker. I don't think I'd want that as my last name, but
it's catchy.
You remember it, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So as soon as I read that name, I'm like, I won't forget that one.
Right.
So, but anyway, he wrote the book 120 years ago, and it's still relevant for today. And he was talking, we already did one podcast on pride, my wife and I did, and then we're doing this one on greed's the next one that he talks about. And he's made a comment. He said a large proportion of the wrongs and crimes of history have been due to the inordinate greed of gain. 1 Timothy 6:10 says the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Money is not bad in and of itself. Let's get that straight.
That's exactly
right out the gate.
Right.
It's not bad. If you love it, you can make it an idol. You can make it bad. And certainly greed is at a source of problems.
Absolutely. I mean, you can see it all around our society, in our lives, everywhere we go. There's greed. There's a problem of greed. But I love the point that you just made there. We can't look at money as an evil. Right. Money is not evil. God, this is a great resource God has given us, for success and wonderful things in our life, and to bring Him glory through it.
Right.
It's the love of that money. It's the pursuit of that money. It's I'll do anything to gain this wealth. That's where the problems really come
Well, he
in.
actually said if it's ridiculous if you don't see money as important. He goes, because money is the way you get a roof over your head. Money is the way you feed your kids. Money's the way, so he goes, making money is not a problem. He said that in his generation, what he was seeing, and I think we even see it today, is in some ways like the older people more overvaluing it and the younger people devaluing it and thinking like, oh, it doesn't matter if I make money. It doesn't matter if I have, it does matter. There's nothing wrong with making money or doing well at what you do, but it can't be all that you're about.
Right.
So he said this, money corrodes the hearts of people, spoiling their happiness and setting them in conflict with one another. Man's inhumanity to man makes countless thousands mourn, but the inhumanity springs, for the most part, from the desire of one person to possess that which belongs to another.
Isn't that crazy? What's that? Covetousness, right?
Covetousness.
Yeah.
I don't like saying that. Just coveting. Make it simple. Mark, come on, make it simple.
Right, but that's what that is, right? I mean, it's looking at your neighbor and going, oh, they have a new car. Oh, no. Now I got to get a new car,
right?
Because I got to keep up with the Joneses or whatever, and you're going to do whatever it takes to get something that you don't even need right now. You're just wanting it because the other person next door has it, and that it kind of goes with your last episode of podcast about pride, you know, because you don't want to be humble. How do I put it? You don't want to be humbled at the fact that you don't have something as nice as your neighbor, and so you want to be prideful and you want to gain it no matter what costs,
To be honest with you, I would like every neighbor to be just as well off as myself and doing just as well. You know why?
Yeah.
Because that helps the neighborhood. Actually, people you could all come around me and build bigger homes and I would be happier about it, all right? Because that just does nothing but help me. So I think sometimes we don't realize, even with restaurateurs, one of the things that they have found out, having other people come in and build a restaurant near you is not a bad thing. It's a good thing, because the more restaurants in an area, the more it draws people, foodies, and people who like to eat at restaurants, and they have lots of choices. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. The more antique shops in one town, that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing.
Absolutely.
So you want other people to be successful, but I think the greedy person, that's not what they want. Now, I just watched a Netflix show called The Serpent, and it was about a serial killer back in the 1970s, and this guy, he wanted, like, he told his wife, when we come back to Paris, France, they will bow to us.
Oh, no.
They will. But he did this by robbing. He'd make people sick. He'd steal what they had. He murdered people. He wound up, losing all, and he wound up. I'm not gonna spoil it. You watch it yourself and see what happened to the guy. But it wasn't good in the end.
Spoiler alert.
Obviously. But he just, because why? Because the guy was greedy.
Yeah.
He wanted more and more for himself. He wasn't going to go out and work on it. He was going to steal what you had and figure it out and turn that into somehow enrich himself. And he thought, and the fact of the matter is, all the goals that he had and aspirations he had couldn't come to fruition because it was coming out how many murders there were around him and so on and so forth.
Yeah. And practically this is how it looks. I mean, so I had, my cousin called me up one time and he says, hey, I just don't think I'm making enough money. Do you think I should go to my boss? Do you think I should tell them, hey, you need to give me this much money and a raise, I need this and whatever. I've never set right with that, because it's like, if you're doing a good job and you're putting your head down, you're doing work, allow them to go. They'll see that and right. you'll get what's yours. But man, this thing about spoiling their happiness and hearts, right. That's what happens when you think like, man, I'm worth more than this and I need more. Right. No, man, I watched my grandpa for 38 years. I didn't watch him for 38 years, but he worked at a factory for 38 years making bare minimum. He made it because he was content with what he had, and he just based it, he wasn't seeking after like, I need more and more and more and more. No. You know what? I'm gonna yeah, exactly. He was happy with what he had and he was content. He made life work with what God had given him at that time,
I think too, it's something you can't underestimate because obviously it's out there. It's one of the 7 deadly sins. It's been pointed out for years. You look at Judas betraying Jesus Christ for 30 pieces of silver. You look at 2,000 years ago, one of the Latin, kind of like you say, a guy who was writing satire, said of the Romans that they taught their sons, get money honestly if you can, but in any case, get money.
Oh my goodness.
That was one. And then somebody in that same time era wrote the only unpardonable sin is poverty. And what a sad thing to tell someone, this is an unpardonable sin if you don't have money. Come on. And so that would cause him obviously to, okay, well, I got to make money by any means. I've got to steal it. I've got to swindle it. I've got to, it leads to gambling. It leads to people trying to get rich quick and actually becoming prone then to con artists who come in and try to convince you can get rich if you join this, whatever, marketing scheme or whatever it is, where I'm like, there's nothing replaces just good old-fashioned hard work and saving money. That's
exactly right. Unfortunately, greed usually ends up resulting in compromising on values, compromising on what God has called righteous.
Right.
We cut corners. You don't make that tax payment. You cut corners. Dishonesty is huge with greed, right? I mean, so like I used to have to keep track of my hours and the hours of the men that were working under me, and I can't tell you how many people would come up after that day. It was like a 6-hour day, and they would get really upset if I wrote 6 hours in.
Right.
They're like, "Why aren't you giving us 8?" Well, we didn't work 8. Right. We worked 6 hours. Right. I can't fudge the numbers. If you got a problem with that, you got to go talk to the boss because I can't do that with a clear conscience.
Now, the boss wanted to say, hey, it should have taken you 10 hours and you got it done in 6 and I'll pay you 8 because he's getting paid for the job, not by the hour.
That's the boss's prerogative. That's not I'm putting this on the paper. I'm not going to be greedy. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to be false in what I write down on this paper.
And I would agree 100% about that. I think too, even people giving to the Lord's work or giving to charitable causes, I can't be so greedy and wanting stuff for myself that I can't give to others, which by means of giving by others is a source of happiness. Mm-hmm. And so my greed can impede my own happiness because I'm so wanting to just everything for myself, which is wrong. In fact, we're told in 1 Timothy 6, one thing that 1 Timothy says in 1 Timothy 6, you can't take it with you. I mean, that's an important thing. Mm-hmm. He said, godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, we can take nothing out of it. If we have food and clothing, we will be content with that. And a lot of people are not that.
Nope.
They don't think like, if I have food and clothing, I'll be content. I think of Jacob. We just read this in the Bible where he was in Genesis and he said, God, if you put clothes on my back and give me food to eat and bring me back in peace to my family, it's all I ask for in this life. That's all I ask for. Just, I want food. I want clothes to wear. And I want to come back to my family in peace. And he came back 20 years later, a rich man, but he didn't seek it. Like he wasn't out there seeking that. He was out there being content. And I like where he says that, hey, contentment with godliness is great gain. Absolutely. He said, those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap. They do many foolish and harmful things. They come to ruin and destruction. For the love of the money is the root of all kinds of evil. And some people eager for money have wandered away from the faith, have pierced themselves with many griefs. Money can be a big problem. Money can pierce you, spear you. It's like a javelin being thrown into your side because you're chasing it if you're just chasing money for money, you're just chasing the wrong thing.
Absolutely.
It's never going to work.
Being discontented is a horrible feeling. And you walk around, man, this greed consumes you when you're get discontented, you know?
Right.
I think that's why the scriptures are very clear. Godliness with contentment is great gain.
Right.
You know, be content with what God has given you. Seek him, Matthew 6, right? All these things will be added to you. Seek him and his righteousness.
Right.
You know, keep your focus on Christ and doing things his way.
Right.
He will bless your life.
Right.
You know, it's just going to happen.
But greed is an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people who lie, there's people who swindle, there's people who will sell you things you don't need because it's all about them. And that's one thing we cannot afford to be. It should be an unselfish lifestyle where we think about other people. We love other people as we love ourselves.
Yes.
We never swindle them. I always feel this way. You have a business, you want to have a good business, you have a good product at a good price. And if you have a good product at a good price, and that's true of restaurant food, that's true of anything that you do, you put a good product out there for a good price, and that is a winning combination. But you put out a substandard product for an inflated price, you're not going to win in the end just because you're greedy. It's not going to work.
That's right.
But he said this too, put to death in Colossians 3:5, whatever belongs to our earthly nature, sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, greed, which is idolatry. You can put money in God's place where you're more like, I don't need God. I just need money in the bank. If I have a 401k and I finally get $1 million, God, he can go out the window because I don't need him anymore. And that's just a foolish thing because there's nothing that can replace God in your life.
Absolutely not. I mean, actually, the scripture says that you can't serve both money and God.
Right.
You can't do that, you know, because one of them is going to take the place of God, whether that's a capital G or you make money the small lowercase g.
And one's a false God, one's a real God.
Exactly.
Like I don't want to trade in the real God for a false God.
No.
And a false God is money. So I can't make my life about that. And it's interesting. He was saying, Dr. James Stalker was saying in this book that even poor people can be prone to greed because they can make everything their own happiness about if they have more. It's not a matter of having, $50 million or $1 billion in the bank or having $200 in the bank. A person with $1 billion can be unhappy. A person with $10 in the bank can be happy, but a person with $10 in the bank could also be ferociously unhappy, depending on the importance that they have levied on or put on money.
This is an unfortunate reality, Bill.
Right.
I mean, this is what I call an orphan. Well, I don't call it. I've heard it said this is an orphan spirit.
Right.
I see it with fostering.
What do you mean
children.
by that? In an orphan spirit? What do you mean?
An orphan spirit. It's just an insatiable desire to be included, to have things, to you're not content with who you are. It's an orphan spirit, like fostering children.
Right.
They have an orphan spirit. They've been left abandoned. And so now everything they do, like, for instance, eating dinner, they will eat themselves to the point where they're sick. They will start puking.
Right.
They'll throw up because they don't think they'll ever have it again.
Okay.
And they'll do whatever it takes to consume and to get toys. You try to take if another child comes around and they're trying to play with their toys and they take that toy from them, it'll be like you murdered them. They'll scream, they'll cry. That's my toy. This is my thing. So an orphan spirit it's all about me. It's all about protecting yourself, you know.
Yeah, I've seen it. I guess this is my philosophy on life and living as a picker, a buyer. If I walk into an estate sale at the same time that 10, 20 other people do, or 50, I'm never looking for everything. I knew a guy that if he was at an estate sale and got 100 things, but missed one thing and I got it, he would be so unhappy. It was ridiculous. Where I looked at that and said, I don't want to be per se a clear cutter. I just want my piece of the pie. Now, if you turn me loose at an estate sale and no one else is there, then yeah, I probably will pick every apple off the branch. But I don't care. I'm not out there wanting it over you. I just look at it. Hey, is it a good deal? It's not a good deal. And if you come in and you're somebody I know, you found something good, great. And somebody else came in and found something great. I just want a piece of the pie. I don't need everything. Yeah, I want it to be successful at what I do. I want to have a good day at the end of the day, but that doesn't mean a good day doesn't mean I have everything. A good day doesn't mean I have everything. You have nothing. To me, a good day is where at the end of the day, you did well, and
That's
I
right.
did well, and the other person did well. We all did well. That's the end of a good day for me.
Actually, that's what I really love about you
Right.
is you actually celebrate when other people do well.
Right.
You're like, hey, that's fantastic, man.
Right.
You join in because
Right.
you have that heart that's just wanting to bless other people. You
Right.
want other people to receive blessing,
Right.
you know? Why wouldn't we want that?
Right.
You know,
We want it for
It's just-
ourselves,
yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
One
Yeah.
thing he said too, he said the real danger, which has to be resisted by old and young alike, is the tendency to believe that if we have money to trust in, we could dispense with both the blessing of God and the sympathy of others. And I thought that was really wise because he didn't just talk about God. He said, you think that you don't need God, but it can also lead you to think you don't need people. Because as long as you have this pile of money, you can just like forget everyone else, not have good relationships, where I think that's nonsense. In fact, the one thing he brings out, Mark, and I want to highlight this, he said, Dr. James Stalker in this book, 7 Deadly Sins, said, there are better things than money: health, sympathy for others, a clear conscience, a good mind where you're challenging. He just said a cultivated intellect is how he put it. So I look at it as somebody who's not afraid to educate themselves, not afraid to learn more on the topic. I'm adding to the list friends, because to me, I would have to say I would far value my friends above money.
Absolutely.
Because my friends are what I don't sit around and think about money, but I do sit around and think about my friends. So friends to me, like people in my life, are significantly more important than to me is money. Now you might argue, well, you have money and you're comfortable, maybe that's why. Well, I don't know. I'm just saying that's my nature. I want them to do well. I want to do for them. I want to help them. And a lot of my friends, they're the same way. They'll do for you. You know what I'm saying? Ahead of themselves.
And that's the difference with an ungreedy person and a greedy person is the greedy person, they don't necessarily care who they hurt in order to get their own, you know, and that friends list gets smaller and smaller because you're stepping on toes. You're stepping on people. Get out of my way. I need to get this, you know, and all of a sudden people realize, man, this person really doesn't care about me at all.
Because every friend became a client.
Exactly. Yeah.
You got to sell something to. But he said this, you can be happy without money, but you cannot be happy typically, if you need your health, you need friends, you need sympathy, you need a clear conscience. And I mean sympathy not from others, but sympathy for others too.
For others, yeah.
Right. And to have also them involved in your life, where you're connected with people and a good mind. I mean, these are things he said that are way more important than money. He said, and you can have, there's nothing wrong. Like he said, there's nothing wrong with money as long as we don't make it God and we don't make it everything. There's nothing wrong with it. So I like that. There are things better than money. He also says money is a means to an end, but not the end in itself. And I think that's important too. He said, look, it's good to have money. It's good to pay your bills. It's good to have a house. It's good to have food. Because you can have some, he called them refinements. In other words, some nice things in your house, a nice couch, maybe a nice TV or something. There's nothing wrong with that.
Not at all.
But he said it can't be what your life is about. He said if you make your life about things, you're just not going to be happy.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I mean, I love the wisdom of Proverbs 13:11. It says, wealth gained quickly will dwindle away quickly, but the one who gathers it little by little will become rich.
Right.
I don't think that just means in their storehouse. I think that means in their spirit as well.
Right.
You become rich. You become that contented person that's seeking God. And you know that over time, you know what? God's going to take care of me.
Right.
We have food. We have a home.
Right.
I'm content. I love my life. I love Jesus. I don't need, what more do I need?
What about Ecclesiastes? It talks about that guy who works his life away. He works away. It's kind of his family's been put to the wayside, if he even has one. Yep. He lays up treasure after treasure after treasure, and he finally comes to the end of it and says, what for? What am I doing? And this is what the author puts it to. He said, you know what? He said, there are people that they are such an ox at the mill that they're just grinding out more and more grain to make flour. For what purpose when they already have plenty, and they never think about it because it's all they know is to make money. He said, when you understand why you're making money, in other words, I'm making money so that I can retire, or I'm making money so that I can help other people, I can give to the church or God's work or charity, whatever it is, I'm going to have money for that. Those are the people that are happy because they're not just about them. Absolutely. They're also truly about other people.
Bill, I love what you just said there. There's a key word in that phrase you just said that is an antidote to somebody that's caught up in greed. If you find yourself struggling with greed right now, I challenge you to start giving.
Right.
When you give, You can't defeat a spirit with the same spirit.
Right.
You have to defeat it with the opposite spirit.
Right.
The opposite of greed is to give.
Right.
Defeat that spirit of greed in your life by just becoming a giving person. Carry around a little bit of money, whatever, in your pocket, and look for opportunities to bless people with
Right.
it. It will kill that greed desire in
Right.
you.
Well, some of the stuff that I have, I just recently acquired. Some of the stuff that I like the best out of that stuff, I'm giving away.
Isn't that great?
To somebody else because I just feel like, but they like it too. It's not.
Like your black licorice. I mean, that
Exactly.
I
shared black licorice. I wasn't greedy.
Yeah, I mean, it's my gain.
Exactly.
I mean, I really appreciate it.
We do love our black
Oh,
licorice.
man.
But it says, don't store up treasures on earth is the other. And we'll close with this. The Lord said, look, don't put treasures away where moth and rust destroy, thieves can break in and steal it. Lay up treasures in heaven. And I think if our life is about serving others,
That's it.
and you make money along the way. There's nothing wrong with making money. I mean, I'm a pastor. There are photographs I've sold. There's stuff that I sell. I love wheeling, dealing, and things like that. I've done all that stuff to help, but I did it for the purpose of helping my kids through college. Yeah. I did it to put a roof on my house.
Serving
I
your
did
family.
it to survive.
Right.
Serving my family. It wasn't actually. I mean, it wasn't so that I could buy a bigger truck or so I could. It really, honestly, a lot of the hard work I did, the money didn't even go to me anyway. It went to my kids, and that's fine. But to me, I'm a happy person because you made money on the way, but you're here to help other people.
Yes.
You're here. And to me, a good day is you come to the end of the day, you help somebody with their marriage, you encourage somebody along, you stop by to say, hey, to me, that's a good day.
It's a great day.
It's a good day. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Yep. That you help somebody else. And that's the kind of stuff that I absolutely love. So never overvalue money while you're undervaluing people and undervaluing service, which will truly make you happy in a way that money never can. You guys all have a great and a blessed week.